Hello, welcome to Newscentre. I'm Parikshit Luthra. The tragic collapse of a suspension bridge in Morbi has yet again turned the focus on concerns that lie at the heart of India's civic bodies. Consider this. The Morbi civic body claims that no fitness certificate was issued before the century-old suspension bridge was reopened after a hiatus of 7 months. Further, they claim that they were not aware that the bridge had been reopened. It doesn't just end there. The website of Oreva Group, which had been given the contract of maintenance and repair work, has no information about its construction and infrastructure projects. The FIR has named the agency responsible for maintaining the bridge and the management agency as accused, but it does not name the company in charge of maintenance and repair of specific individuals. CNBC-TV18 Sandhya Gora gets us this report from Morbi. She has been visiting different sites, speaking to authorities in the area, and sends us this report.
On 30th of October, a suspension bridge located in Gujarat's Morbi area collapsed. The bridge, which was called Jhulta Pul, was made in British era and was always a tourist attraction. The bridge was closed 7 months ago for renovation, and the contract for the same was given to Ajanta Manufacturing Private Limited of Oreva Group. The bridge reopened on 26th of October, and on 30th of October, over 400 people gathered on the bridge and it collapsed. The tragedy has already claimed over 135 lives, and this is what happened on that fateful evening.
600-700 लोग थे झूलते पुल में, बहुत झूल रहा था और बीचों बीच गए और अचानक से पुल गिर ही गया। वो झूल गिरा ना, तो उससे सहारे मैं पकड़ के
रस्सी पकड़ के,
रस्सी नहीं थी, वो कुछ पुल का हिस्सा था, वो मैं पकड़ के 1.5 घंटे तक बीचों बीच पानी में रही।
Now there are multiple loopholes here. The local municipal corporation is claiming that it did not give a go-ahead for the reopening of the bridge, no fitness certificate was issued and no inspection was done. And that's not it. As per the victims, there was no system in place at the site.
एक टिकट लगवाना था और एक एंट्री होते ही टिकट चेक करने वाला था, वही था, 2 लोग थे। वो दोनों लोगों में से किसी ने भी नहीं कहा कि पुल के अंदर इतने लोग जा सकते, इतने 1 घंटा, 1.5 घंटा, 15 मिनट ऐसे रह सकते, ये सब कुछ नहीं कहा।
An FIR is filed and SIT is formed to investigate the case. Total 9 people have been arrested so far, but all of them are lower rung employees of the private firm. The municipal corporation, on the other hand, is claiming that it wasn't even aware about the reopening of the bridge, and this is what the SIT has to say about investigating this claim.
Regarding the loopholes, our SIT team is taking care all sort of the loopholes which have been committed either by the municipal authorities or by any other agencies. Our team is taking consideration, apart from all these loopholes, the other structural, technical, capacity building, all angles are taken into place, and will come out with the full investigation, and nobody will be spared in the investigation. The action will be the strictest actions will be taken against the culprits.
The local municipal corporation is claiming that it has no idea about the increased capacity of the bridge post the renovation. Now the cops are claiming that no one will be spared, but as of now, no one from the municipal corporation or the top level of the private firm is questioned. In Morbi, with camera person Balbir Singh, this is Sandhya for CNBC-TV18.
All right, that was Sandhya Gora finding out some answers when it comes to that terrible bridge collapse tragedy in Morbi, Gujarat. Joining me now to take this discussion forward are 2 former chairmen of the National Highway Authority of India, Raghav Chandra and Brijeshwar Singh. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us here. Mr. Chandra, if I can begin with you. The Morbi municipal authorities saying that the bridge was opened without their knowledge and without mandatory fitness certificates. Can the municipal authority really pass the buck?
I don't think they can pass the buck, and they are squarely responsible for it, and they must take the blame, the onus, and the flak for it. No municipal body worth its salt, and this is an issue not just of Gujarat, but it's a national issue. which applies as much to all urban local bodies. And increasingly, as India becomes a greater and more urban country, our municipal bodies have to be more responsible. They have to be manned properly. The civic elected bodies have to take responsibility. And they cannot just say that they allowed people to come on the bridge, that certificates were not issued by them. If it's a bridge which is in the municipal corporation, they are squarely responsible and they must take full flack for it.
Right. Mr. Singh, coming to you, when it comes to the Oreva group, according to documents that we have perused, and it's now in the open domain, that the Oreva group, which is actually a maker of e-bikes, a maker of clocks, LED bulbs as well, street lights, they had been given the contract for renovation and operation of this bridge. And this company had said that they will take about 8 to 12 months to do so. Further, the maintenance had been subcontracted to another company. Doesn't it look like no one has really gone into the credentials of the company? Would a company like this actually be given a contract to renovate a bridge which is 143 years old?
Well, all I can say is if it was a bridge with the state government or the national government, extremely unlikely that such a company would get a contract because there are strict regulations regarding pre-qualification, previous experience and so on. Class of contractors, are you a class 1, class 2 contractor, what is your previous experience? But in the case of municipal bodies, as Raghav Chandra has already alluded, there's a certain lack of capability. And that capability lack is not only in the technical engineering sense, saying what needs to be maintained, how to inspect the bridge, which is a very important part of this, but also in drawing up the contract and qualifying the right kind of person. So I think these are issues which will come out in the inquiry. And certainly we'll be able to see what were the qualifications insisted upon. I don't think Oreva could have got a contract without meeting the qualifications. It's a different matter to say the qualification bar was set too low. But we can't comment on that until we've seen the documents.
Right. Mr. Chandra, coming back to you, do you think this matter needs to be investigated in greater detail as to how Oreva, a maker of clocks and e-bikes, got this contract? And the role of municipal authorities here as well?
It's a pretty obvious sort of case of dereliction of responsibility. A parallel to this is that of the Morandi bridge, which collapsed in Italy, which was taken over by the Benetton, the famous Benetton company, bought an Italian company called Osto Trade, which ran the Morandi bridge, which collapsed and 40 people died, and today 58 people are being prosecuted. So clearly private companies do come into play into these, and I won't go into why or which company and for what reason they decided to run this project. But the point is that the responsibility is as much of the private company, but more essentially of the municipal corporation, which gave away the contract, and the conditions under which it gave, the lack of supervision, the lack of control, the lack of administrative management. It is indeed a very, very big collapse of municipal governance at the local level. It has long-term implications for the country as a whole, which is going to be 40% urbanized in the next few years. And therefore, we should take it very, very seriously without any politics getting into it. Because I know the elections are around the corner, so people will use it for all that. But it is purely a managerial administrative collapse.
Right. Mr. Singh, coming back to you, we are reading reports. Now, of course, this will all come out in the investigation that key structures of the bridge were altered. Now, when you're looking at a bridge which is 143 years old, does it require a specialized agency to renovate it, to operate it, and maintain it as well?
Usually not, because this is a very simple design and not very much can go wrong with it. All you need to do is to keep ensuring that the cables and the ropes and the stays are free from corrosion and have the requisite strength. So it's being such an old bridge, it's not that the inspection or the maintenance of it is a very complicated kind of job. It's not a modern bridge which requires far more technical expertise. So I'm not in agreement with that, but it might have been beyond the capacity of a municipal body because municipal engineering departments aren't very skilled in structural engineering and in the kind of calculations which go into structural engineering. They should actually have had a competent structural engineer investigating and inspecting the bridge, which they probably didn't do. But all this is going to come out in the investigation. Yes, being 143 years old and being a heritage bridge, they should have been much more careful. But there doesn't seem to be anything wrong in the design of the construction, because it wouldn't have lasted this long if there were faults there.
Right.
There may be problems in the inspection and the maintenance, and that is all going to come out in the inquiry. But I agree with Raghav that municipal failures in maintaining the infrastructure are a national problem. It's not just a problem of creating new urban infrastructure, but maintaining what we've already inherited. And that is really a truly national problem, and it has gigantic ramifications.
Right. Mr. Chandra, coming back to you, now this bridge was designed for 125 visitors. There were 450 visitors allowed on the bridge before it collapsed. And we also are getting reports that the Oreva group was issuing tickets without serial numbers. The municipal authority again says that they were not aware of this. Can this really happen without the knowledge of civic authorities, the government? How can you have 450 visitors on a bridge on a single day, which can carry only about 125 visitors at any given point in time?
As I said, this is a case of negligence, and clearly, I don't think there are any motives can be attributed at this stage until an inquiry is done. But clearly a case of dereliction of responsibility, and 400 people should definitely not have been permitted. There should have been enough manpower there to man the facility. And again, I'm looking at it in terms of perspective planning for the future. In India, we are going to be giving away a lot of ropeways will get built in the days to come to places like Kedarnath, to places like Hemkund Sahib, and various other places. So we must necessarily ensure that technically responsible and competent companies participate, that the management is constantly of a very high order, and supervision and control should constantly be there. Building infrastructure is one thing, managing infrastructure is equally important. And as a small incident like, as a small infrastructure facility like this has created a loss of 150 lives, goes to show that we have to be extremely cautious and careful when we are building our infrastructure, because we must build up attendant systems of management as well. And therefore, there is a great learning from this as we go along as a developed nation.
Right. Mr. Chandra, if I may also ask you now for final comments from both you and Mr. Singh here. When it comes to fixing accountability, where all does accountability lie in this case? Mr. Chandra, beginning with you.
Yeah. So in my, as I've already mentioned, that clearly the first point of accountability is the municipal corporation. What action should be taken? I mean, they can be dismissed and an administrator appointed by the state government. Criminal prosecution is a separate issue. All that will perhaps take place in the normal course. The private company is also equally culpable because they have clearly been irresponsible. All that is important, but there are lessons to be drawn. And in my view, what is most critical and important is that we must draw the suitable lessons from this, ensure that all our bridges are properly attended to, and that we put in place suitable enforcement systems and management systems to ensure that whether it is religious places, whether it is tourist places or everywhere else, we should ensure that we have adequate management systems in place with suitable SOPs, suitable safeguards to ensure that not only structurally and technically are the infrastructure in sound position and condition, but that they are managed properly so that there are no stampedes, no collapses, and such problems as have occurred here.
Okay. Mr. Brijeshwar Singh, your final thoughts. What are the larger lessons from a tragedy of this kind?
Well, the larger lesson is really one of demographic pressure, I think, because when the bridge was built, Morbi was less than 40,000 in population, and it's gone up to 4 lakhs now. So when you have this kind of demographic pressure in our cities, much of our old infrastructure is simply not designed for this kind of usage patterns and heavy usage and heavy loads. So we've had this very major tragedy, but we've had all kinds of collapsing bridges on railways in other cities and what have you. So I think it's a big question that do we need to upgrade our infrastructure to cater to the increased demographic demand? And that's one thing. And the second thing is that the municipal body, that is the owner, must step forward and take responsibility. I find this is very strange that the owner says, oh, I didn't know the bridge was in operation. I mean, you can't be sleeping at the wheel. And you have to take, you have to take full responsibility as the owner. The Oreva company comes in under a contract, and that's a much narrower issue. Did they fulfill the condition of the contract or didn't they? What was the contract saying? Nobody's seen it as yet, so we can only speculate on that issue. But really, responsibility rests with the owner of the asset, which is the municipal body.
Right. Mr. Brijeshwar Singh, thank you very much for joining us here in our studios. Mr. Raghav, Chandra, thank you very much for being with us as well, giving us your views on where the accountability lies and some of the big questions that this tragedy raises for our civic infrastructure as well. We're going to take a short break here on Newscentre, but coming up on the other side, the digital rupee pilot gets underway. 9 banks are using the digital currency starting today to settle secondary market transactions in government securities. Details on the other side.